Now, I hope you all are in your peak of your health, and as you all know that I'm going to start with your online classes. So the very first class I would like to take about the Archesoffoot. So to explaining this Archesoffoot, for the introduction I have something for you, and that is the footprint, right? Okay. So it is of course mine only. I have taken it with the colors, yeah, right, like my favorite color only. Okay. So coming to the point, you can see over here, by looking at this footprints, you can able to assume that it is an uneven, right? Whichever the areas which is having the most of the weight bearing, that footprints came into this like colors, right? So at the most inferior side, it is impression of the calcaneum bone where your maximum weight bearing is occur along and this is impression of your calcaneum along with the skin and superficial fascia. Like pressing up down, it is in your lateral border. Of course, on the medial border as well, there is a skin and superficial fascia. But because of this arch, it is not at all going to impress. The impression is not on the paper. Then along with this, there is a metatarsals head with the skin and superficial fascia. And if you look at this, the small four rounds along with this thumb impression, these are for the fingers. So the phalanx, this is the impression of your distal phalanx along with the skin under the bone, right? So this is how the impression is look like, of course, and moreover, but in some cases it is quite shifted to medial side, even the more impression on the anterior side, more impression on the posterior side as well, but it is depends on the your pattern of your foot. So looking at the objective for this presentation is, first you need to understand the need of the arches. Second is its types with its basic concepts like its structures and formations. Then very third is how the arches are formed with your bones, alignment with the joints, and even with your muscles as well. Then which are the factors that are responsible for maintaining that arches, and the functions of the arches, and last but not the least, the clinical anatomy. Now to understand the need, right? So the very first need is that when you take the step down on the floor, at that time your foot should be supported, right? So even it is supported in walking, running, even jumping, and even it is in the stair, climbing as well as descending the stairs. Because foot is acting as a two major prior function. First is that it provides a pliable platform for maintaining your upright posture, and second is it is providing a lever for propelling your forward things, right, in running, jumping and walking as well. Looking at this classification, there are specifically two types. The very first is longitudinal, and the other one is the transverse arch. In the longitudinal, again there is a two sub classification, that is medial and lateral one. So it is medial longitudinal arch, lateral longitudinal arch, and in transverse there is again two subtypes, that is anterior transverse arch and posterior transverse arch. So how it is formed? So I have a diagram for you, and it is a very basic diagram showing that the bones of the foot, so it is for very first and most inferior part, that is a calcaneum, then talus. Of course talus is on the calcaneum, but it is forming the arch as well, so I have drawn over here. Then navicular, and on the medial side, on the lateral side cuboid, and the rest of the three cuneiform, that is medial cuneiform, intermediate cuneiform and the lateral cuneiform, and the metatarsals bones. So looking at the first classification, longitudinal, medial longitudinal arch. So if you can draw over here as I have drawn, that from calcaneum it will pass from the medial side. So medial side of course on the talus, then next is navicular bone, and it will passes to first three metatarsal heads. So you can see over here, I am tracing down it, right? So this is your medial longitudinal arch, right? Now next arch is the lateral longitudinal arch. So lateral is, of course, it is on the lateral side. So it is passing along with the calcaneum to this cuboid, and the lateral cuneiform bone, and the rest of the two metatarsal bone. So that is fourth and fifth one. So you can see over here, this is the medial longitudinal and lateral longitudinal. Next, about the rest, that is transverse arches. So first arch is that is along with the side of the head of the metatarsals. It is forms in the anterior part of the foot. So that along with that heads of the metatarsal. So it is from medial side to the fifth, that is on the lateral side. So this green color one, you can see, that is called as the transverse arch. And as of course it is on anterior side, it is an anterior transverse arch. Now about the posterior transverse arch. Posterior transverse arch is it is in half, right? And it is a very small, and it is in just a one line as well. And so it is passing from the posterior bones and the posterior part of this bones, and thus how it is called as posterior transverse arch. So both the arches spreaded transversely. And that's about the classification of arch that you can write down in your notes as well with the diagram.